Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. It's summertime. It's a warm time of year, and I know that a lot of the parts of the country is going through a little bit of a heat wave. Us too here, but this is what to be expected. My good buddy George from You Wanna Watch, he was just restoring a World War II pickaxe, and by the end of the video, he was drenched. I know a lot of you guys have shed shops and whatever, and it gets hot in there, I know, but sometimes that's why I like to work it more at nighttime, But we got a couple things to cover today, and the first thing I wanted to talk about was we were going to do taps. Remember last time we showed you some of these taps that I didn't even know I had, taps and dies, and I said I was going to clean them up. And this is something you don't usually see on YouTube or whatever, how to clean taps, and a clean tap really makes a big difference, a threading tap. So I'm going to show you start to finish what we do to clean them up. Last time I took them and I soaked them in vinegar, and the reason I did it in vinegar because these things not only were rusty, but they had a lot of gunk and everything, and vinegar is a low acid solution. They won't harm the taps because you'd have to let them sit there for a long time before they'll do any damage to the metal, but it is a good metal rust remover. If I had some taps that were new old stock, like the ones that were in that box, I'll use a vapor rust for something like that, because they were never used or anything. But these were kind of beat up, and there was a lot of them. So let's take them out of the vinegar. It's been 24 hours. Let's see what they look like and clean them up. What you're looking at is some of the taps that came out of the 24-hour soak in vinegar, then was put in hot water with baking soda to neutralize the acid, and then rinsed off, and now this is what you have. You see there's a little bit of flash rusting, that's normal. Now what we're going to do is we're going to dry them off, and then we're going to proceed. Next thing what we're going to do is go through some of the taps, and if there was any crud, like you see here, that was left on the tap, I'm using a bamboo skewer. You can use any piece of wood, a wood ice cream stick, anything works good. And the vinegar actually makes it kind of crusty, that it pops right up instead of being a gooey substance. And you can see how easy that comes up. It leaves a nice, under it is actually pretty clean. But we're going to do that with all the taps, make sure that anything we could pick off with a stick, we will, before going to the next step. Our next step is the motorized wire brush. We're going to use this on the shaft of the tap, making sure not to touch any of the teeth. And we're going to do all around the back and even the tip of the tap, just to make sure it's all rust-free. And look how nice that looks. Okay, next up, excuse my gloves, I touched the wire brush a couple times. First thing we're going to do here, I got to show you, really important, we're going to use an old Dremel wire, small wire wheel on here. Now, when you look at the tap, there's two sides of the cutting teeth. The right side on the right-hand tap is the cutting side, the left side's the trailing. This is the cutting on the right side, all around the tap. So you're going to hold it to the left like this. Then you're going to touch it with the Dremel, pushing against the trailing edge, not the cutting edge, and we're going to take off the rust that way. Here it is in real time. You can see what it looks like. Again, we have the wire brush just touching the trailing edge lightly. Notice we're leaving the cutting edge alone. Now, this is only on a right-handed tap. If you were using a left-handed tap, you would have to reverse it and hold it the opposite way, but there's very few of those around. But you notice how quickly and easy the rust comes out of there, out of the flutes. Really important to do this, but the teeth still have some rust on it, and now we're going to address that. Okay, so now that we know which side is cutting and which side is trailing, we're going to take a soft brass wire brush. You got to make sure it's all brass, and then to check that, you put a magnet to it. If it doesn't stick, it's good. It's got to be very soft. And we're going to go from the trailing side to the cutting side. We're not touching. You see that? We're going to spin the tap. We're going from the trailing to the cutting. We're just dragging it across those open areas just to clear out any debris or anything particles that might be in the cutting teeth without dulling the teeth. Again, you're using it from the trailing side to the cutting side. Afterwards, we're going to take any kind of oil you can use. I'm using a liquid wrench oil here. Has a little bit of cleaners in it. We're going to spray it down here and saturate the tap with oil. and wipe it down. And now we're going to take the edge of the cloth and go in between the flutes. And you're going to turn it around. Again, this is in real time what you're watching, but you're going back and forth here. And you're going to see the dirt that's picked up on the cloth from doing that with the oil, just like that. And we're going to do that twice until the rag comes up clean. And now you're pretty much almost finished with cleaning up your tap. But look how nice that tap looks now. Now, if you remember what these 3 taps looked like before we started, they were all rusty and kind of messed up. And these are the same exact taps after the treatment. You can see they're all good, they're all sharp, and they're ready to be used again. Next, we're going to be dealing with the dies. The dies are a little bit easier to deal with. You know, they're not as fragile. The teeth are kind of hidden to us. The first thing we're going to do after we took it out of the vinegar and everything, we're going to make sure that the holes that capture the chips are clean with a soft wire brush, which is here. This is like a gun cleaning brush, and it is brass. And then we're going to do, I made a little jig here to hold the dies so I'm not holding against the brush with my fingers. And you're just going to lightly hit the surface with the mechanical wire brush, clean up the top and bottom, and you can see. And then we're going to put it in the oil bath and let it sit. Now, you remember what these taps and dies and also the handles look like before we started. Remember how messed up they were. They were really in kind of grummy shape, but now let's look what they look like. And we're calling this project done. You can see here, these are the taps everything that was in that Burns-O-Matic case, except for 2 little items there I want to save for Evaporust, but this was all from the vinegar and the cleanup, and you can see everything now is nice and clean and usable and still sharp. And the important thing to remember is that a lot of these times, especially with older ancient taps like this, some people actually, my buddy Reggie is a perfect example, has beautiful collection of tap sets, and sometimes he's missing maybe 1 or 2 taps, and it's not an everyday use of the set, but what he wants is to complete the set. So a lot of times, you know, you get a set like this that might be an unusual or rare tap, especially if it's a 100-year-old tap and it still looks pretty decent. You can contact it or somebody you put on eBay or something, and a lot of guys would be happy to get it. Now, you can see here, all of these taps came out, you know, where they look decent here. This one's a Greenfield tap and die. You can see here 5/8 by 11 national course, and you can see what it looks like. Now, we still have a little bit that gets in between the teeth, and I'm going to show you how to clean that out. The little bit that's remaining even after the brass brush, but you can see now they're ready for storage. Now for storage, what I do is I keep my taps in a drawer, in a toolbox, spaced off very much like this. And if you need a tap, you can look here if you need one a little bit bigger. They're not banging against each other because the drawer only moves in and out and once every so often. As for the dies, you can easily make a die holder using your 1-inch spade bit and drilling into wood and placing these in there. But you could put these in a cigar box or whatever, because dies, they're only going to bang against each other. Really, they're not going to damage the thread. So dies are easy to store. The taps is where you have to be careful. You don't want the teeth banging against each other. Here are the tap handles that we did. You can see these came out all night. And this is just a cleanup. You could have gone further with these, but these are all lubricated, cleaned up, went inside with the brass brush. The die holders here, we have 3, and now we're ready to store them. But let me show you first what I do to coat these when they're going to be in storage for some time. Okay, let's say you had to clean out the teeth here, and now let's say the brass brush wasn't enough to get out sometimes it gets kind of stuck in there. What you do is you drill a hole a couple thousandths smaller than the tap in a piece of softwood, drench this tap in any kind of cutting fluid, 50-50, any lubricant or anything, and then run it through the wood, and that'll clean out the tap threads. Here you could see I'm using 50-50 acetone and automatic transmission fluid, and you could see what the hole looks like. It took all that dirt out of the teeth. Okay, now this is that tap after running it through the wood. You can see the teeth. We got most of the gunk out of there, but again, if there's some really hard gunk in you might have to run it through a harder piece of wood, even a piece of soft brass or aluminum or something would clean it out without really dulling the tap. Now in this goldenrod container here, you can see here there's 50% mineral oil and 50% Vaseline. I have a video on that. You have to kind of heat it up for them to absorb, you know, to melt together. But when you do, you get this beautiful, see that there? That is just perfect. It's half and half, mineral oil and Vaseline. And what you do is you take your tap or whatever, you put a little, I like to use, I got my, you know, glove here. And what I like to do is just rub the entire tap, see that, coat it all the way down inside the flutes and everything, and then just give it a quick wipe off with a piece of paper towel or cloth or something like that. Just gently, you're not wiping everything on there, you want a little coating left. But this is what you do before you store your taps, okay? And that, you can leave that there and that will stay rust free, especially if it's in a climate controlled area. And that's how you put a coating of that 50/50 on all of these, and that's how I store it. And then after I use it, when I use the tap or dye, I spray it down with a little WD-40 to clean it before I put this on. Next up, I get people all the time, they say, how do you know when a tap is dull? Just, you can't really tell by feel unless you feel it next to a sharp tap. But when you feel it in your hand, you could tell. But let me show you by a visual inspection. Here are two of the same size taps. One, the top one is a sharp tap. The bottom one is a worn out or dull tap. Doesn't mean it can't be used for certain things that you might use it for, but you would never want to attempt to tap something like this in a hard steel or something where you could break off a tap. Now, let me show you the teeth. Look at the teeth here, how it doesn't come to a sharp point. Do you see that? Because they're dull. Do you see it over here? The teeth have been worn off over here, especially in this, the middle part of the tap. Over here, notice this tap. Notice the teeth. Perfect points on all of them. Very sharp tap. You see that? So that's one of the ways you could tell. And when it gets to this point, when a tap gets to this point, it needs to be retired. Or you can put it in to a set that's just used for display or something, because this is a 100-year-old tap. Wells Tool Company, they're the ones, Greenfield bought them out, Greenfield Tap and Die. So this is a very old one, but you could see the difference, right? A while back, Home Depot used to sell these Husky storage bins. They were also sold under other names, but it's a almost a translucent, not transparent, translucent, like a polyethylene container. These were fantastic. They had pinned hinges. You see, they're not the type of hinges that the crease hinges. They had pinned clasps on the front, and they were, you know, you could divide them. They had these little dividers that would pull out. Now, this would be great for dyes and stuff, but not really for taps, because if you put taps in here, you really have to separate one from the other, and you don't want to bang it across each other, even if you were to pull it out. But these, if you can find these, they discontinued them where I live. You can't find these anymore. These were great for punches. These were great for so many things. Unfortunately, they don't have them anymore by me. Now they're pushing this hard, clear plastic that will crack or whatever. This was forgiving. It was, you know, if you ever find these, pick them up before they're gone in your area. Okay, so in closing, kind of a short one today, but I just wanted to get that out there about it's really important to keep a taps and dies clean if you want them to operate correctly. Now I have to go tonight. I just got a call from one of the head of the civic community here, good friend of mine. I had all three of his sons in the Scouts. All three got Eagle the same night. How proud was he, and myself. I was super proud of those boys. Great boys. Anyway, he gave me a call on the phone. He's up in Connecticut camping with his sons, and he has 12 grandchildren. God bless him. And he said, hey, John, you know, they're having a meeting uptown. I wonder if you can attend. You know, I'm trying to get as many people as I can. They have the migrants, or whatever they're calling them now, the people that that come across the border, undocumented, whatever they're calling them. They want to house 300 of them in a what used to be a girls' Catholic school up the street from me. And they want to house 300 of these people, just throw them in there. And what are they going to do during the day? What are these people going to do? You know, it's not like there's lots of jobs in my area, my town. They're going to be wandering around, and eventually what's going to happen? You know, where are these people going to go? So, you know, and once they get their foot in the door and they say, oh, it's just temporary. We know what happens with just temporary. Next thing is permanent. Next thing you got homeless shelters around, and guess what happens to your property value? And now normally, you know, I know the city's gone already. I always tell you that. The city's a shot. I feel bad. I didn't want to say, Tom, look, it's a done deal. There's nothing that us going up there and, you know, stand. The only thing is that maybe some people a light will go off in their head, and they'll say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't vote the same way I've been voting. Maybe I should think about that, you know? But yeah, you know, sometimes people have to, it's like that hot iron, the old hot iron thing. Sometimes you have to let the kid touch the hot iron before they realize the iron's hot, and they won't do it again. Sometimes you tell them, don't do it. You're going to get burnt. They're like, you know, you don't learn. There's nothing better than a lesson learned the hard way, right? Anyway, so I'll go up there tonight, see what's going on, and I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday. Take care now. Bye-bye. Okay, we need to go into the Capitol. We need to go into the Capitol.